Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Tony Colangelo, and I'm here with my good friends, Wayne Capilli and Fraser Almeida. Hey,
Hi
guys.
guys.
Morning.
We are getting together today. We wanted to take some time to highlight some terrific photos that were captured at our most recent workshop in Atlanta, Georgia. We had a couple of great houses, and we thought it would be great to not only show the great work done by so many of our students, but also to highlight the beautiful, beautiful homes that we get for the workshop. So, guys, do you want to jump in?
Let's do
Yep.
it.
So our first of two houses was this beautiful mid-century modern. And I don't know about you guys, but this just might be my favorite style of house. I absolutely love it. And this house in particular, aside from the beautiful mid-century modern, the landscaping around it was absolutely fantastic. There was sort of like an Asian Zen sort of thing happening on the outside. The homeowner had a koi pond right at the front entrance, and it was it was just a home that lent itself to beautiful exteriors, especially at twilight. And I know, Fraser, you had a blast doing your light painting thing
Oh
with
yeah.
this house.
Yeah, this was first of all, we don't get these type of homes in Vegas. So getting this was like Christmas morning. Like being nestled in this forest, it's just like it's like one of those things I was like, "Oh my God, I'm in heaven." So I made sure when we did our twilights for all the students, I light painted this thing for everybody. Everybody got to get photos for themselves. This was one of the highlights of this workshop. Just getting to do this twilight of this gorgeous property, it was amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
I was surprised to have a perfect mid-century modern in Atlanta, Georgia. And not being, have never been to Atlanta, I never realized how much trees are everywhere. So
Yeah,
to see this perfect mid-century modern in the midst of a forest was amazing.
it was
Yeah.
spectacular. And our second house was also extremely impressive. This is actually the back of the house, and there were just so many remarkable things, not the least of which was the depth. But there was almost like, I don't know what to call it, guys. There was almost like that barn roof element in the middle of the house. And what was really cool about this house is that black cladding there on the barn element was black onyx panels. And this house was the first house in the US where that sort of cladding was applied. So we were very, very fortunate to get this house. The reflective properties of the black onyx, it was amazing. And we'll see it in the next photo as well.
And I got to give props to the photographer because I remember we mentioned how much, forest and trees are around this thing. Flying this drone to get this shot and to try to compose within that and not back into a tree was great job to the photographer and their piloting skills. And
Yeah.
also just for the fact of how they compose this shot, I think it shows the depth of the home. You get to see that way better than as if you were to do a 1 point looking straight down the pool. This shows, I think, the width and the scale and the depth of the home. And I think they
Yeah.
did a good job of balancing that with the surroundings itself.
Perfect height.
Well,
Yeah.
I also want to commend the photographer that did this because this photographer was nowhere near, being able to see where the drone was. So this drone is literally in a forest, not being seen by the photographer.
Yeah.
And for somebody that does drone photography, I was freaking out. So I was getting ready to run over there and pick up the drone out of the forest.
Well, I mean, gee, my drone piloting, I fly a drone the way a kid uses Etch-a-Sketch,
Yeah.
up and over and up and over. It's so yeah, that was really impressive. Okay, Fraser, if you want to bring up the next house, we can. There it is. We can really see the reflective nature of that black onyx, and it reflects back the forest in behind this house. The photographer did a great job getting the sun reflected right at the tip of the house. And boy, a builder and an architect, I think, would be thrilled to have this house. For the builder to talk about the complexity of the build with all of that concrete, all the iron, the black onyx, and certainly the different types of materials used here, it sort of validates that decision making from the architect's perspective. So I think this is a terrific vignette.
And I remember when we were here on the balcony, just hanging out. We were all taking a break. This was something that just jumped out at you. This composition. I remember the photographer and myself and Wayne. We were just literally taking a break, and we saw this, and it just goes to show, like, sometimes, slowing down helps you to see different compositions and find different moments that you wouldn't have seen if you were kind of rushing around. And I think they did a great job here capturing this for the to represent the home.
Sure.
Also, when I'm looking, we mentioned the panels, and when I'm up close to this particular wall, it amazed me how large these panels really were to put on the side of a house. So not only was this the first house in the United States to use these panels, and for me to actually see these panels and the size of the panels, I was very impressed that that these panels are probably really, really expensive, and I probably am not going to see this in California.
Breathtaking. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Right. So here, Fraser, you mentioned a minute ago, you and Wayne and that photographer were sitting out on the deck. And this is actually a view from that balcony or deck, whatever you want to call it, looking back into the house. And I think one of the things that I think we want to commend the photographer for is the amount of compression that they got in this shot. So the ability to go a few feet back on the deck rather than just standing in the doorway, which would have distorted the couch in the foreground. I seem to recall that she stepped several feet back and zoomed in, and we have this beautifully composed and compressed shot that I think is just a terrific capture. And I like that it's centered, again, from a build quality point of view. If you take a look at the seam in between the ovens, that seam goes right over the faucet, which goes right through the middle, the back of that middle chair. So I think it was just beautifully captured, beautifully executed, centered one point from the photographer.
Yeah, I really love this image. Something I always look for when I'm composing is layers and levels, and I love the different features here where we get the layers of the couch, the coffee table, the island to the back where the stairs are at, and also the levels of like the lower couch, the middle of the island, and the staircase. Like all that just feels really, really good. Tony, I have a question for you. If this was a job you were doing for an actual client, obviously the light there is not centered with the middle of the island there.
Right.
What would you do in that situation? Would you deliver as is? What would you do to fix that or to deliver a better image? I know for myself, for the portfolio, I would obviously center that light, but for a client, what would you do?
Actually, that's a really good question. I think it would depend, Fraser, on the nature of the relationship that I have with the client. If it's a new client, I would certainly ask to get their thoughts on it. If it's a more long-standing relationship, and I know that the client has never pushed back on certain things that I've cloned out, like ceiling air vents or pot lights that weren't adding to the value to the composition. If they were okay with that, then I would probably I would take a little bit more liberty in maybe making the selection of that light, the ceiling around it, and maybe moving it over so that it's centered with the rest of the shot.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, again, it would depend on the nature of the relationship that I have with the client. And certainly for portfolios, I'd be moving that over. Yeah.
For my thing, that's the most important about this picture is the context and the livability of the space. It's really hard that it's really hard sometimes when you're taking pictures when you're showing a kitchen and the living room and how it really interacts with each other. The part that I really like about this image is you can see yourself sitting on the
Yeah.
couch and other people preparing meals or having a party in this space. So this
Yeah.
is a very inviting and it gives context to where what the spaces are used for. And this is a really hard shot to pull off.
And real again, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but the value of effective compression in a shot, because if the compression weren't there,
Mhm.
that couch
Would be a mile
and
away.
the lounge portion of the couch would be so distorted that the photo wouldn't be watchable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So kudos to the photographer. Just a nice piece of work here. Beautiful lighting as well.
All right, let's go ahead and go on to the next image here.
Nice.
Yeah, I love this. For real estate or for commercial shoots, I've had clients many times ask for specific shots of just the range by itself. But I've seen many different photographers just go up, take their camera, shoot wide angle, and get that. And it's a very distorted looking image. I like what the photographer did here, not only capturing the range, but giving context to it along with the island and creating a beautiful 2-point composition here, giving more than just the range by itself. I think this is a really nice tighter image versus just a wider image of just the range by itself.
Yeah. So Fraser, if I could ask you to go back to the previous image, because I want to just build on what you're saying. So we start seeing hints of it behind that armchair there. That we have the range over there. There's the range hood. We got a hint of it there, but only a hint. And if we were to do sort of like the traditional luxury real estate, stand over by that
Pillar.
that post there, that steel post on the right side to take the 2-point, that sort of range area would still be in the distance. But in terms of telling a more complete story of this kitchen, now if we can go to that photo back, Fraser, yeah. So the range area now is the star of the show. And if you're taking a look at the kitchen photos, we typically tend to deliver more shots of the kitchen than pretty much any other space because of the importance of it in interior design, in architecture, in real estate. That it's really good to get a series of photos that tell a more complete story of the kitchen. And the fact that we're zoomed in and this range area, cooktop area, is so much the star of the show. I just think it was a great compositional choice from the photographer.
I also want to mention, as Tony said, the importance of compression. If you took the shot with a 24 millimeter, the foreground would be aircraft carrier size.
Oh yeah.
So that's why it was important that who took this, and it was very smart, stepped back, zoomed in, and compressed the foreground so the chairs in that counter area aren't distorted.
Yeah.
So this is actually a wide angle
yeah.
shot with a telephoto lens.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Fraser, let's move on. Ah, lovely.
Now these are the kind of pictures that I love. Is as we're going through the house, as we're composing a picture, I'm sure that this photographer was composing another picture at the time and was looking around and saw this shot, and it just presented itself. And these kind of pictures, you have to take the picture.
Yep. When the light is right, shoot.
Yep.
Sometimes, I remember this day that it was going in and out, the light, because of the overcast clouds. And when you get that light, take that opportunity when you're there and just shoot. Yeah, I love this shot.
Just a very sexy vignette, and it's the a type of photo that all clients that we typically work with would love to have as part of the set. So again, kudos to the photographer.
Yeah, I love the different materials here in just this one shot. You got the wood, the metallic beams, and the concrete on the walls there. I mean, it's and then you have the nature outside too. You know, it all
Yeah,
just blends in nicely.
yeah, just a very, very lovely shot here. Okay, Fraser, let's go to the next one. Yeah, this is a really cool shot. You really get a sense of depth in this image as we go from the office in the foreground through the primary bedroom into the ensuite. And to the credit of the homeowners, they put a big mirror. What are the actually? What's the proper term for those mirrors? Is they weren't it was like a standing mirror. It was leaning against the wall,
Nope.
Yeah,
and they
Big mirror
leaned it in
works.
such a way that it was perfectly centered on the opening of that far door there, getting into the ensuite. So I think this is a very effective image. If I were to nitpick at all, um, just the whole idea of doing the best that we can of creating a way of even accentuating pulling through the viewer's eye through the shot. So maybe in post, kind of maybe darkening the ceiling a little bit, um, maybe making a selection around the primary bedroom and adding some warmth to that room, because the tone of the colors in the primary bedroom is very similar to the tones that we're seeing in the ensuite right in the back. So it would be helpful to find a way to distinguish these rooms in some way.
One
What
of
do
the
you guys
things that,
think of that?
yeah, and one of the things also with this picture is implied space and key light. So one of the things that we try to teach in our workshops is, you know, where the key light is, the light that makes the room, gives the room its shadow and its form. So you don't like the middle room, you can tell without even seeing that there are windows there because of the way the light is coming through. You
Yeah,
know that there is a large window in the middle room also.
yeah,
So, you know, you don't have to show everything to let people know that things are in the picture.
right. No, it's a great point. Building on some of the things that I said earlier in terms of pulling the viewer's eye through the shot, perhaps making a selection just of the ensuite and maybe brightening that just a smidge as well. Anyway, food for thought.
yeah, great
Fraser,
shot.
let's move on. Yeah, yeah. Wonderful, wonderful capture. You know, one of the things that we try to do as workshop facilitators is that every year we try to add new things, new parts to the workshop curriculum. And in Atlanta, for the first time in our many years of working together, we added a section on a really focused view of how to capture vignettes and detail shots. And I was so pleased to see this photo submitted because this particular photographer took the detail shot to heart, a section of the workshop to heart, and was looking for detail shots. And I think this individual did a great job here. For those people who don't were at the workshop but don't recognize this part of the house, this was the seat within the walk-in shower. So
In the mid-century modern home, not the
right in the mid-century
right.
modern. So it just goes to show you some wonderful material choices where we have this sort of reflective tile on the seat, and the squares of that tile kind of mimic and complement the squares of the tile on the floor. And the fact that, and it's really interesting because one of the things that we talk about in the workshop is getting away from our usual, perspectives of shooting across a scene, right?
Mhm.
This photographer really, really accentuated and dramatized a lens angle that we typically don't see in our work, in luxury real estate and what have you, and shot straight down. So, boy, kudos all around to whoever took this. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, guys. Right, so we're still staying in the mid-century modern. And boy, this photo does so many things well, not the least of which is highlight why mid-century moderns were so successful and so popular when they first came out, and they're still popular. The whole idea of just a more wide open, very livable space, lots of light in going through it. On the right, we see a little peek into the kitchen, and off camera right to the photo is the dining room. We see connections to indoor, outdoor livability, that beautiful clear story window up top. Um, and Wayne, I know you went crazy for those slats there in the middle.
Yes. And also, if I'm looking at this, as I'm looking at this shot, it is so inviting by the couches. Even the far room is inviting you to come in to enjoy that space. And off to the left is that modern chair that really screams that you need to sit in that chair.
Yeah,
Which, yeah, and that's what I mean. So all these elements really flowed together to show an inviting, livable space.
yeah, without question.
Yeah, great shot.
And one of the things, Wayne, that I know that, when we were reviewing these photos, you made a terrific point about the architect's choice of using those angled slats and the
Yes.
impact that it had on this space. Do you want to reiterate that for our viewers?
Yeah. So if we take a look at this picture, if you can imagine those slots not being there, you would actually that room that's behind there would actually be flattened. It would almost look like a photograph that's in
Yeah,
that space. By putting those slots in and breaking up the light and letting and informing you that that is a room and the light's coming there, it gave dimensionality to the room and it gave texture to a normally dull, I mean, a normally flat space that would be there.
yeah, just a lot of depth there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Fraser, let's go to the next one. Right. So from virtually the same spot, maybe a little bit more to the right, going back, and again, opening the door, such a smart decision. Creating that flow from indoor to outdoor. We still see the pool with the waterfall feature in the back. We're still seeing those slats, and we're seeing that cross beam right at the top of the shot. Just so many things that were nicely captured. Architectural choices that were nicely captured here.
I remember the attention to the detail on the coffee table there, positioning those candles, those books, so that there's a good, balance with everything. I remember many people they were doing that, and I commend them because it makes a big difference. The spacing of all that plays a big part, not just accepting it. Because if you look back at the previous photo, they're staged differently to work for that composition. I like what they did here to make those elements in a different position because it really works well for this composition here.
Yeah,
Also,
absolutely.
one of the lessons here is compression. Fraser, if you can go back to the last picture.
Sure.
So this was done with a wider angle lens above the couch, and if you look at the table is a little distorted. And if you go to the next picture, the
Yeah,
photographer stepped back, zoomed in, and now the background, like the chair is bigger, and the table is really not even distorted at all. So it's one of those things that you have to kind of visualize, that when you do these kind of things, just step back to eliminate to eliminate the distortion in the foreground.
Right. Okay, Fraser, let's move on. So we were talking sort of like teachable moments, and we were talking with our students about, sometimes when you have a lot of trees in the backyard, and how do we leverage that if it's a sunny day? One of the things we can do is to create a starburst in the shot. So we were talking about, how do you do that? Well, one of the ways that you do it is you really have a small aperture, usually somewhere between f16, f18, something like that, which helps to create the long sunlight, beams of sunlight coming off the sun in that starburst. And here we have one of our students practicing that. I thought that was really, really cool. We had a lot of fun at this workshop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just a moment for everybody to experiment what they learned in the classroom, apply it on site, and just try different things. It was nice to see people going out of their box and trying different things, whether it's the starburst, whether it's the vignettes. Like, I remember walking around with the students and just focused on, let's say, a chandelier, and how do you capture a detailed shot of that, and just spending time to figure that out, and that's what it takes. Like, sometimes it's not just given. You have to earn it and find it, and it was cool to see them all trying different approaches.
And we had a lot of students, if you recall, who had never used or actually even seen a tilt shift lens.
That's right.
And because we had ours, they actually had an opportunity to manipulate the knobs and do the shifting, and just a very rich experience for everybody. And boy, we just had a blast. So, Fraser, I think that's it, right? Those are all the photos that we wanted to share.
That's it.
Okay. So everyone, thank you for taking the time to spend with us, to go through some of these terrific photos that were captured in our Atlanta workshop. We hope that you'll be joining us this November for our next workshop, which happens as usual the day before the PMRE conference. And then in the spring, we are back in beautiful Carmel, California, in Wayne's hometown. And Wayne, we are confident that you're going to get us a beautiful California coast home or two that we'll have our students photograph and enjoy.
Oh, yeah.
So with that said, again, thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you in Vegas at the conference, and hopefully at a future workshop. Thanks again. Take care, guys.